Hey, this is Anney.
And Samantha.
And welcome to Stuff One Never Told You, a production of iHeartRadio.
And welcome to another Monday Mini where I talk about, my social media corner. Yeah. So on my usual daily viewing of TikTok, don't start with me, a video popped up on my For You page, FYP, and in it, the creator compares an old manufactured tampon, so like she probably bought it 10 years ago, I'm not really sure, versus a tampon produced today, so recently manufactured, and claimed that the sizes have shrunk. So here's some context of that video from cafemom.com. Quote, in her video, Melissa Simonson showed a Tampax chart showing that menstrual flows aligned with which absorbency level. I'm calling you out, Tampax, she said. These sizes that you normalize so that we all as women know about which ones we use for about which period of time during our periods, these are not accurate anymore because you shrunk them. The video has since attracted more than 2.3 million views and over 293,000 likes. Not to mention, thousands of women in the comments confirmed they too noticed a stark difference. So she kind of brings out the two different tampons and puts it in her hands and shows the differences in sizes. And she goes with the flows. Like, it's the junior or the small, medium, large, and then super. I had to be the super. Just to go ahead and give this heads up. I do not have a period anymore. Thank God. I'm very happy. I got an IUD. I first got them, I want to say like 2013, 2014, maybe 2015. I know it was before the Trump administration for sure. And since then, my period has stopped. And I've been very, very grateful to this. In my world, my periods were awful, heavy flowing, very painful, all these things. So after the first initial year of having an IUD, because I know there's a whole debate, there's so many things that we could talk about an IUD, as in fact, Caroline and Kristen already have. But with that, for me, in my experience, the first year was really rough in trying to regulate. After that, it's been lovely and beautiful, and I love everything about it. Thank you, IUD. So with that said, I haven't had a period in a long time, so I don't know myself. I have not had to buy a tampon. I do keep small, like, panty liners around just in case someone needs them. I don't know. It's not bad to have. But, so I'm going to put my little disclaimer here. So I cannot attest to this myself. This is all coming from different sources. So this attention has brought a lot of period havers to comment on this issue. Again, many people are saying they feel the same way, and to the point that many women thought they were having problems, like they were having such heavy flows and changing out their tampons so frequently or pads that they were freaking out. Like, oh my God, what's wrong with me? Something is happening with my body. And here are some of those comments from The Sun. It says, one of them said, I knew I wasn't crazy. I was wondering why I was going through them so much quicker. Another said, so it's not just me. Dude, I thought my flow was getting worse because my tampons soak through way faster now. Another one, I wondered why I went from using Super Plus tampons to needing to use Ultra on my heavier days. Actually, I was like, why do I need Super? Like every single day except the days I need Super Plus or Ultra. Now we know, Simonson responded. Regular is trash made for no one. I felt that way. And another user said, oh my God, this makes so much sense. I was like, how do I go through 2 boxes now in one cycle? It used to be 1 and 1/4 boxes. And Simonson commented, I had the same question, truly thought my body was changing over time. And another woman was like, I thought it was me as well. So a lot of these things have been concerning many women. And we've already kind of had this conversation about how much they cost. We talked about the pink tax, and it's still just as bad. Only a few states and areas offer free tampons. 20 states, according to one site, still tax these products as well. Pink tax. Tampax, who was the main focus of this TikTok, even though other commenters were like, it's not just Tampax, y'all. My other tampons brands are the same way. But they were the focus for Simonson's video. And they responded and said that they have not shrunk, although the amount available per box has definitely gone down. Like literally at one point it was like 36 in a box and now they're 32. Why? For more money, we know that. And that the actual capacity to hold is regulated by the FDA. So a spokesperson from Tampax responded to BuzzFeed after the initial backlash saying, No, we have not changed the size for always in Tampax. Our pads are available in multiple absorbencies designed to fit different needs, body types, and flows. They went on to say tampons are regulated by the U.S. Food and Drug Administration, FDA, and adhere to industry absorbency or size ranges as listed on the side of each package. The FDA absorbency ranges have not changed since its introduction more than 30 years ago. So they've been saying that repeatedly to different comments, because I think People magazine got onto them as well, and they were like, no, this is not true. Of course, then the question lies, why are women using more? Have they truly not changed, or have they stayed within the boundaries of the FDA, which has like a listing that are a range by doing the least possible amount? That's my question. You know how they kind of get away with wording?
Yeah.
And I'm wondering maybe if this is it. So People magazine writes, according to a Federal Register, the official journal of the federal government in 1989, the FDA published a rule amending tampon labeling regulations, which standardized the absorbency terms and sizes. They are junior, which is less than 6 grams of fluid, regular, 6 to 9 grams of fluid, super, 9 to 12 grams of fluid, and super plus, 12 to 15 grams. And an ultra tampon absorbency size is 15 to 19 grams of fluid, and that was added in 2000. And the junior was labeled as light in 2004. I don't know why that happened. So my thought is maybe they're just keeping it, instead of like the larger range, they're just keeping it at the minimal and saying they're still guidelines, because they didn't say they didn't change it.
Right.
We're being gaslit.
And so many of those like terms, I've never really thought about it before, but they're kind of strange.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of food companies get away with using terms that have a legal meaning, but they're not necessarily using it in the legal sense.
Right.
So yeah, I wonder if there's something like that going on here.
Right. Also, there's this conversation about how they're testing these products. So BuzzFeed actually talks about it, about the fact that they don't actually use blood. They use like a saline solution, which is not as thick as blood. So you got to wonder what is being absorbed and what isn't. But before we jump into that, just as a reminder, this leads to the still disturbing facts of period poverty, which is still very prevalent all over the world. And just for a refresher, an update of where we stand, period poverty, as explained by the unwoman.org, and this was from 2024, period poverty refers to the inability to afford and access menstrual products, sanitation, and hygiene facilities, and education, and awareness to manage menstrual health. Simply put, period poverty costs women and girls too much, and it doesn't have to be this way. I feel like this has been a conversation for the last 30 years, and we're still not hardly getting anywhere. Like, there's some places that are like, yes, we got it. Some workplaces that are like, yeah, we understand, we're here for you. But the fact that it is still so prevalent that people cannot afford this or get access to this is a problem. And they go on to explain the causes, which, quote, stigma, the high cost of menstrual products, and lack of water and sanitation facilities drive period poverty around the world. Menstrual products are prohibitively expensive for millions of people worldwide. Gender-blind policies and tax laws, for example, the pink tax on feminine products, are in part to blame, but such policy decisions go together with the stigma and taboo attached to menstruation. For example, in many states within the United States, Viagra for erectile dysfunction is classified as a tax-exempt health product, while sanitary products are classified as luxury goods and taxed at the highest rate, which is, I really want to throw the computer every time I read something like that. Why is Viagra so much more important? I'm going to throw this computer. Additionally, more than 1.5 billion people still lack basic sanitation services, such as private toilets, which is a huge deal. Not having access to safely managed toilets keeps many girls away from school and women away from work during their period. At least 1 in 10 women and girls in rural areas across 12 countries did not have a private place to wash and change during their last period. That is so disturbing.
Yeah.
And as ongoing crises all over the world has caused a bigger deficit in period poverty, it's worrisome that companies may be skimping on the products, which have been inaccessible to many. Here's another quote from unwomen.org. There is growing consensus that managing menstruation is a health rather than hygiene issue, and above all, a human rights and gender equality issue. Today, 614 million women and girls are living in conflict-affected areas, and the number of women and girls fleeing conflict, crisis, and disasters is rising. The United Nations Refugee Agency estimated in 2023 that women and girls accounted for 51% of all refugees. Menstruation does not stop during crisis, yet menstrual hygiene management and women's girls' health and dignity are low priorities during a crisis response. During transit and in camps, displaced women and girls often lack privacy to change and wash. Internally displaced women and girls in Myanmar preferred disposable sanitary pads to cloths once they learned how to use and dispose of them. In UN Women's recent report from Gaza, more than 540,000 women and girls of reproductive age lack access to items to support their hygiene, health, and dignity. They are resorting to using cloth or sponges because they cannot access menstrual products. UN Women estimates that 10 million disposable menstrual pads are needed each month to cover the needs and preserve the dignity of women and girls in Gaza. In Lebanon, during the economic crisis, the prices of menstrual pads and other hygiene items made within the country increased by 98 to 234%. In April 2020, 66% of girls said they could not afford to buy menstrual products, and since menstruation is a taboo topic, most girls and women do not talk about it. So there's so much to be had about this conversation that the fact that they are, again, Tampax is saying that they have not done this, it is FDA regulated, all these things. But from the testimony of those who are having periods that are saying they're going through so many boxes and having to pay so much more because they have to have more, it seems sus.
It does, especially because they're a big company, one.
Yes.
But two, we just have so much evidence from companies that have been doing this.
Right.
And during the pandemic, there was this question of they've gotten more expensive and it seems like I'm getting less. Like there was that whole thing about I'm finding them on eBay for hundreds of dollars.
Right.
Which is, if it's a health need, that's ridiculous.
It's silly. So all of these things, and again, with those who can't access it, and that's just the conversation in general. Like we don't even think about the fact, oftentimes people don't even think about the fact that this as a need and the fact that, yes, this is a health issue. It is becoming a health issue when it's not accessed and it's not available. And then that people don't want to talk about it or don't want to help. And the fact that it's not affordable everywhere. And just because it doesn't affect everyone, still 51% is a pretty high number, that they don't care about it. There's so many things, as well as the fact that it ostracizes many people if they're on their periods. We know this taboo has really, really f***ed up a whole society, like a whole community of people, of women, and those who have uteruses. We know this. So there are a lot to still be wanting when it comes to period products anyway, and overall uterine health. And as well as we need to be questioning big corporations and what they're doing to increase profits. Again, I wonder if they're trying to gaslight us about these products and about the fact that women are going through them so much quicker. Mm-hmm. And if there's a whole ongoing crisis that so many women are affected by this, we need to have a bigger conversation about what is happening.
Yeah, if that's true, then we need to look
like one or the other, y'all. Someone needs to be looking into this. In fact, just as a reminder, when it comes to testing, and I said this earlier, these products are often can lead to inaccurate information. As BuzzFeed reports, there's another factor that can't be ignored. Traditionally, we haven't tested tampon absorbency with real blood, so the absorbency data we've come to rely on doesn't accurately reflect how well a tampon works in real-world conditions. In August 2023, Scientific American reported on a paper that found that tampon absorbency numbers can be misleading because they're typically tested with a saline solution that's just slightly thicker than water. When the tampons were tested with real blood, researchers found they could hold much more or much less depending on the brand and size. They tested 21 different period products and found that tampons of various sizes could hold a range between 20 and 34 milliliters of blood. And they continue saying, according to study authors, this was the first time tampon absorbency was tested with actual blood. The fact that tampons were invented in 1929 and it took until 2023 for researchers to test them with actual blood says a lot about how period stigma has hurt our understanding of women's health. Hopefully, this study is a step toward period products that better reflect how much blood we lose each month. So literally last year.
Yeah.
Y'all, it's 2024.
Yeah. And I will also add, for anyone who's had a period, a lot of times it's not just blood.
Yeah.
There's clots, there's mucus, there's like thicker stuff.
Right.
That I get why it might be difficult to test, but the fact that you just got to doing the blood part is still not quite capturing the picture.
What is happening? And I think that's that conversation again about like, they don't want to learn. They don't want to help women.
Yeah.
They don't care. They just want to like, we'll give it a Band-Aid and want you to be quiet. Thanks. Quit complaining. Yeah. We don't want to hear about that. And then like when you actually start talking about it, literally, I didn't know until I think I was graduating college that the amount of clots that I had was not normal. I was like, oh, really? Huh. Like it was a midwife, actually. She was like talking to me and worked at the gynecologist, and she was like, okay, yeah, no, you're not supposed to have that many clots. And if they're that big, that's probably why you're in so much pain. I was like, oh. Mm-hmm. Okay. And then like it just blew my mind. Because maybe a couple of these things were you don't ask questions because you don't think to ask. If you have nothing to compare it with, you think you're fine and this is normal. And you find out it's not actually normal. And you're like,
yeah. And it's incredibly harmful because I feel like every person I know has a story like that. I have a story like that because we don't talk about it. So we don't know what's normal. And the really scary thing, one of the really scary things is, like, if we look at our conversations around abortion in this country, that becomes a huge deal. But no one who's making these laws knows anything about periods because none of us apparently do.
Right. And let's have about the fact that they're trying to take away birth control in some areas. And some people, some women, I was one of them, use birth control to help manage your period. Again, because it's so awful. And we're not even jumping into endometriosis and all of the information that's lacking from that and how painful and how disruptive it is to many of the people with uteruses and what that's like for them. It's annoying. Like, this is such a ridiculous conversation, but the fact that the corporations are backtracking and be like, no, not backtracking, but possibly, like not giving everything, not giving what is sufficient, essentially, for women to sustain good menstrual health. It's just kind of like, that's not even talking about toxic shock syndrome because people probably don't want to change out their tampons because they feel embarrassed and or they don't have them. Like, I can't. It's too much. But anyway, this is what came up on my For You page. If you have thoughts on this, or if you actually feel like you can give an example to that, let us know, because this is interesting. I think it's so newly developed that I hope this doesn't go away. Like, I want to hear more conversations and people being held accountable and then, fixing this.
Yes, absolutely. Well, if you would like to send those thoughts to us, you can. Our email is stephanie@momstuff@iheartmedia.com. You can find us on Twitter at momstuffpodcast or on Instagram and TikTok at Steph Never Told You. We're on YouTube. We have a book you can get wherever you get your books. And we have a TeePublic store if you want some merchandise. Thanks, as always, to our super producer, Christina, our executive producer, Maya, and our contributor, Joey.
Thank you.
And thanks to you for listening. Steph Never Told You is a production of iHeartRadio. For more podcasts from iHeartRadio, you can check out the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, wherever you listen to your favorite shows.